Hi, I'm Blake Rayhans.
And I'm Stacie Mallon.
And you are listening to the Optimized AF podcast.
We know life is hard. We're here to make it simple.
Hi there, and welcome to episode 1. I'm Blake Rayhans.
And I am Stacie Mallon. We're super excited to get this launched and off the ground because life is confusing right now.
Well, can I just say it's fucking hard right now?
It's really hard.
Okay, I'm just going to kind of come right out of the gate with it.
If you are eating
tough.
potato chips on your couch right now, this podcast episode is for you.
Don't get freaked out. We're not actually looking at you, but you probably do need to look over your shoulder because, we're watching.
Yeah.
No, there's so many people right now that are doing exactly that. It's really tough times. Obviously, if you're listening to this episode months and months and months from now, what we're talking about is we're sitting here at the tail end of July 2020. We are deep into this COVID-19 pandemic. I am not going to downplay it, upplay it. It is what it is. And it has rocked a lot of people's worlds. Now, there are people who might be listening to this that have really been impacted. And I mean, I'm not diminishing it, of course. I'm trying to touch on the people out there that have had a loss of life in their family. They've lost a job at a little bit of a lower end of that, but some things in people's lives have been stripped away from them. This episode's not intended to get into those deep topics, but what we are going to talk about today is the habits and routines, the kind of our norm, what was our norm, has been stripped away from a lot of people. Some of it's been forced, and some of it's been just a natural evolution that I think a lot of us have succumbed to in just given this upheaval.
Yeah, I think there were days for me early on after I had lost pretty much all my consulting clients in the matter of 3 days, sitting in my rental house post separation and divorce and finalizing that, and with 2 teenagers who just didn't want to get out of bed, and gave everybody a lot of grace and gave everybody a lot of space to begin with to process the grief. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people were feeling, the grief of not knowing when this is going to be over, not understanding what just happened, and quite frankly, not even sure how to get themselves out of bed every morning because there was no place to go. There was no place to be. Kids didn't have to be at school. And for a while, it was fun. I think teenagers were like, hey, this is great. And then as graduation got stripped away and prom got stripped away and sports got stripped away, I'll say on a personal level, the story of my teenagers a little bit is what I experienced with them was so much overwhelming frustration. And as we started to work through why that was, it ended up being more about a lack of rhythm and a lack of normality, I think, that was really causing some significant depression with them. And they were sleeping all day and staying up all night. It looked like, the movie Step Brothers where they sleepwalk and they come down to the kitchen and there's couch pillows in the oven. Like that was my morning. Every morning, wild animals had gotten into my kitchen and made whatever they had made the night before. And my boyfriend and I would both be like, what in the hell happened down here? And the dog's chewing on whatever leftover he grabbed off the counter that they didn't put away because they're teenagers. So I think as we started to dig into, and Blake and I both had dramatic change that we'll talk about over time, and just lives that I think really we're highly resilient people based on where we come from and what we've done. But I think we had a big motivation to start this podcast because I think we both started digging into how can we create simple strategies for people.
Absolutely. Actually, I want to touch on that, Stacie, because like you said, resilient, and God, that's such a resiliency and adaptability I consistently see as a need in our society as a whole. And I think that is somewhat generational. I will acknowledge that I think generations that are in that baby boomer, maybe a little bit younger than the boomers, but you've been through some stuff, right? And you've had to adapt. And not to say that people that are younger in the X millennial generations haven't, although I will say that having some adaptability, it's huge. It's huge right now. My story leading into this, just from the COVID standpoint, the roller coaster was incredible. we had so much, misinformation, non-information. The communication was just crazy. And I'm going to give a huge amount of grace to everybody that was involved from higher levels, whether it be in our political system and our government, at the federal level, the state level. Hats off to them. I don't want that job. I wouldn't want that job. You're doing as best as you can. Completely understand it. Now, on a personal level, I went from the information of COVID hitting, the reality crushing in that impacted my family first and foremost by just us canceling our spring break vacation to Disneyland. And moving into a new house during that process, capping off the sale of our current home. We had a 3-week gap in the middle before the new home was going to be built. So you're transitioning, and my kids are young, both of them under the age of 6. On the work side, I had, once things really sort of kicked off and everybody was a little upset, I would say, to a certain extent is probably the right word. The leader of that organization sent out an email to those staff members, and I think the intent behind it was in a good place. I think the intent behind it was, in this current state of uncertainty, let me flood out into my organization some stability, and I'm going to send an email and say, hey, you know what, everybody, you're good. Okay, paychecks are coming. We're not closing the doors. If you're worried, if you're stressed, put that aside. Okay, we're good. Maybe in later episodes, I can even get into some of the details that might relate to somebody. But what that led into was then me actually being let go from the company just a few short weeks after that. And you talk about a roller coaster. I mean, my wife is in the medical field. Her office at the time, they had actually cut back on her hours because people weren't going to see their doctor. They just weren't leaving the house. We had 2 young kids. We're moving into a new home. We had stress coming out of our ears. And then here's this thing of one thread of stability we had, and came directly from someone I gave, 6 years to, and had that thread then cut. And it was tough. It was really, really tough. I had probably a good 48 hours of, hey, you caught me really off guard, and this stung. But even almost as quickly, such a blessing. And we're going to get into that, because I think the theme of this episode is habits and routines. And I want to take it back to that for a second, because I want people to be reminded that these stories are not unique to Stacie and I. I think everybody's got a very unique story that is all their own. But what we're trying to get into then is talking about the routines and habits that sort of left our worlds. Maybe you listening out there, you can relate to that. And you may have found yourself in a situation where you push pause for a second. You kind of look around and you go, what happened? This is not me. This is not the person that I want to be. I can understand that I've arrived at this place because of the current pandemic and the situation that's been forced upon us. But this is my life, and I'm going to take back control of it. I'm not going to let this happen to me anymore.
I think we're going to start each episode with a little bit of a game, and I think it's a good time to do that, which is if you were to write, so we're going to do this with our guests. So if you are going to come on this show as we build community, and if you have a way to optimize your life that you want to share, we're going to invite you on, but buckle your seatbelt because we're going to play this game every single time. We're calling it $10 words. And $10 words is describing a situation. We're going to give you a situation to describe and use as many $10, $5, $20 words. And the other 2 will essentially assign values to your word and your jargon, if you will. And there's going to be a winner every time to see who did the best job of describing this situation on their $5 and $10 words. So I think a good one this time is talking about describing.
If I can though, if you're listening to this, okay, if you're in season 2, season 3, and you're starting off with this and we're years later and you don't hear the game, don't hold us accountable to that. Okay.
Because we decided to pivot.
We might have pivoted. We might have taken a little bit of a step back, okay, and just kind of leaned back in to what was really working at the time, and decided that game needed to be broken down into smaller pieces
and evolved
and then
dramatically
put back together in a new way as I bump the mic. If you're
Blake's really excited
to play the game, but yeah, so just have a little grace with us, because you could be listening to this years down the road and we're not playing the game anymore. But
we abandoned this strategy
for these next few episodes. Have fun. If you're coming to us and you're listening not from a business world, guess what? $10 words, they're not unique to just the consulting space. You might immediately, when Stacie said $10 words, I'm guessing some of our listeners out there immediately had a name pop into their head. Mm-hmm. We've all got that one person, colleague, friend, family member, Uncle Joe. Every time you get with him, it's like, do you really have to?
Break.
Do you have to go there, Joe? Every time?
Every time.
I mean, we get it. You're smart. We get it. That's a 14-syllable word. Okay. Like, why? I mean, what is the point?
And right, we're going to talk a lot about this, I think, on this show, which is insecurity, and self-reflection. And I think it's things that doesn't get talked about a lot, but I'll be honest, people that do this on a regular basis, Uncle Joe, probably just have some insecurity about how they feel about themselves. So it is a little bit of a tell for me. Sometimes people are dropping the big words. They want to feel smart and they want to feel better. But I think consultants are experts at this, is what we decided. So we want to play this game a little bit from the seat of being consultants and watching other consultants. I won't name the big five right off the top. And the whole goal, right, is to look more intelligent than the client. And so you throw actual acronyms that mean nothing sometimes. And I think Blake and I, sitting in this space for a long time in our career, said, this is really frustrating. Yeah. And we want to be helpful for clients and not talk over their head and not deceive them, because honestly, that just feels dirty, right?
It's just not the type of relationship that Stacie and I built with our clients. We both had examples where we worked for companies that were more transactional, and I'm not going to use that as a $10 word, but it was very transactional in how they approach the work. Get in, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Now we're out. You'll never see us again. Or we're going to take you to the 80% because we want you to call us back because you can't do it on your own because you need us to be in the room. That's just validating their own ego. And it's complete bullshit. It doesn't need to exist. If you are listening, you need a reference point to what we're talking about. I sent this video to Stacie last night. If you've watched or heard of the show House of Lies, there's a YouTube video. I think it's called Consulting 101. It's about a 3-minute video that'll give you an idea of exactly what it is that we're talking about. And those actors give a pretty good and accurate portrayal, in my opinion, of how some of the big five kind of deal with this, but also not just them, even the smaller consultancies. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the game. Then we're going to touch on the rest of this episode. By the way, this is part 1 of part 2 on this habits and routines topic. Such a big, valuable topic that it's really difficult for us to wrap it all up in one episode.
Yeah. Do we rock, paper, scissors, or are you just going to go first?
Well, I think I drew the short straw on the way over, so...
So are you going to dive in?
Let's jump right in.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. All right. So what is how you want to throw the word out, or you want me to give me a topic to discuss?
So if you were to write a press release.
Sure.
About the shit show that
first,
ensued.
Let me stop you there. I think we're going to need a little bit more cross collaboration in deciding which way we can strategize about this particular press release, because ultimately our target avatar needs to be touched multiple times. Okay. And I don't mean that from a hashtag standpoint, but touch points all over the place. Okay. Now, once we really dive in, okay, we're going to peel back the onion. Okay. It's got many layers. Okay. And, from that point, what we're going to really be able to do is, again, take a step back, realize that we got a lot of blue ocean in front of us, and it's just going to be too much. It's going to be a little overwhelming. And the only way to eat that big elephant is one bite at a time. So from there, we're probably going to go ahead and tap into the brain child of this whole effort here, which is I'm going to bring it all the way back to the press release, and understand that I'm running out of the $10 words because I don't like to use them. So there you go.
Ding, ding.
Ding, ding. We need to put a time limit on this, by the way.
Yeah. We need the timer.
So for future episodes, we need a time limit.
Well, we're going to time limit. Okay, so
perfect, yeah.
Your score, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Look at my head math. 35, 45, 50.
Okay, judges. Yep. Actually, I think we're looking at 47.5 points.
47.5. Okay.
Switzerland came in with a 9.5, so I got to talk to them about that.
It was your dismount. That was the problem.
Well, I didn't stick the landing.
That's right.
You know?
You're like Carrie Strug on one foot off the pommel.
Listen, everybody's a little under their game right now.
It's true. It's true.
Only way up from here.
All right.
Let's get into it, okay? Are you gonna take a turn?
I'm gonna take a turn. I'm gonna see how this goes.
All right. So your topic.
I'm gonna take one for the team.
Your topic, Stacie. And again, just a reminder to our listeners out there: once we get the social following community communication going, we want to know what you guys want to hear on these. So give us some ideas. Again, you can find mine at Blake Rayhans, at Stacie Mallon on different platforms as you follow us from here. So Stacie, today I think your game is going to be: you are walking into a new potential client. Actually, no, I'll do you one better. You're pulling up to the drive-thru at Starbucks.
Okay.
And the premise here is that they've messed up your order.
Okay.
All right. Ready? Go.
All right. Excuse me, real quick. I wanted to have a conversation with you and dive a little bit into how my order was accidentally not optimized for my day. My venti cold brew 5 pumps of sugar-free cinnamon dolce extra heavy cream latte. Yeah, it was absolutely not correct. And I want to take a step back here. I know I'm in my car. You have your mask on. You can probably barely hear me. So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper for you and talk about how we could optimize your experience on the other end of the drive-thru so you can hear more appropriately and professionally, how you can be more accurate with orders. I'm an optimization consultant. This is what I do for a living. So let me help you have your day be more really organized around the optimization of the drive-thru. So I want to start by saying, when you're talking into the mic, and you're social distanced by 6 feet, you can probably eliminate the use of the mask and speak directly and with authority into the microphone so the person can hear you. If you need to clarify the order, you should repeat that back over at least once, maybe in succession with additional times. And from there, you can reconfirm and validate with the individual that you have that order correct before they drive very carefully around the drive-thru, and then have a very direct conversation with them. Again, reassessing the situation before you tell the final optimized coffee drink to the person. And then we won't have this problem again. And I won't have to punch you in the face because my coffee's wrong.
There we go. That's a good place to end. Time. All right. Yes. Well, I'm going to have to give half points for words that I heard multiple times. Oh. But you did use them in context, so you still get a half point.
I need to practice.
Everybody's, again, we're behind our games here. So 5, 10, 15, I think we're coming in at a score, if I'm doing the math correctly, at a 22.5.
So Blake is a better bullshitter than me.
Well, my middle initial is S, so I do have BS written right there. Okay.
Ooh.
Not going anywhere.
Good to know. Good to know. We are going to dive a little bit into habits and routines today. And I think some of the things that we started to talk about as we started brainstorming this episode, let me just use meditation as an example, because I think it's something that I think you and I would both agree is really good to set intention and to ground and all those words that people like to use. But I think let's just call it what it is. It's really hard. Journaling is a good idea, but it's really hard to get into the habit of doing journaling. And we have a partner that we will talk about in the future about journaling, because I think there are ways to make it easy. But most people believe they have to write, here's a $10 word, a diatribe, before they can really feel like they did their journaling for the day. So we want to give you some examples today that are more bite-sized and faster for you to implement as soon as possible. We always want you to walk away from this podcast thinking, hey, I'm going to implement that one thing tomorrow. And so we're both going to give some ideas from our own life. I'll tell you a little bit of an example for me, and we're going to get into the book Atomic Habits a little bit in this episode and into the next episode and talk about habit stacking. But let's just talk about taking vitamins as an example. Seems like a super simple thing to do, but I don't know how many people out there have an intention to take vitamins and never actually do them. They buy them, they sit on the shelf. Nick is raising his hand in the room.
Yeah, wonderful. Nick, our audio engineer, here with us today. And so, and also real quick, Stacie, I want to tell people, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, we'll link below to the link for Atomic Habits. If you haven't heard of the book, the author is James Clear. Wonderful book. But yeah, if you're not familiar with it, we'll make that easy for you to find.
So I'm going to use this example kind of throughout today. So, I got the little Sunday through Monday little pill thing. You buy all the supplements, you put them in there, and you have really good intentions. And I think what happens for most people is they get really excited about an idea, but the hard part is the follow through. And so one thing that we hope you take with you is how can you implement these things in a way that is very simple and real. And even Atomic Habits, both Blake and I have the Atomic Habit Journal. I am 100% positive that I don't use it correctly at all.
Well, here, I'll do you one better. I'm 100% positive I'm not using it at all.
Yeah.
If I can, I'll take it to kind of the personal story for me right now, and maybe hopefully some of you listeners can relate. If you're listening to this during the COVID pandemic and it's still going on, my routines, my habits that I had held true to myself, I did them daily. It was not a problem. I had worked my way into this good flow of being the person that I wanted to be. And I knew that if I wanted to show up for my wife, show up for my children, if I wanted to show up for my clients and my coworkers, I had a routine in the morning that just, pun very much intended, optimized me for the day. I was getting optimized AF
on the
daily. But I have lost a ton of that. And it's almost sad for me to even say that out loud. I have to be, quite a bit vulnerable right now. Some of the habits that I had that I used to really enjoy that were treats for me were sort of a hey, you had a good day, you earned that glass of bourbon at the end of the day, right? I've done the opposite. Not only have I lost some of the habits of, I'll tell you a little quick summary of it. You know what? Get up, drink 20 ounces of water. Okay, cool. Then go and read 10 pages out of a book. Learn something, okay? Get yourself ready. Be active. Listen to something motivational. I'm not going to go into the details of what I did in this episode. Maybe we will in a future one. We'll go through both of our optimized routines that work for us. And again, I want to emphasize for us because people need to do what works for them. Everybody's goals are different. You don't have, like I said earlier, I think in episode 0 of introducing you to this podcast, not everybody has the 2 hours in the morning that it seems it takes some of these influencers, these big names that we hear to start their day off. My morning routine pretty much got turned upside down. I was not able to do the things that I needed to do in order to show up as my best self before the rest of the family woke up. That just works for me. That's what I would like to do. I like to be there, be present, have a few moments with my kids that aren't rush out the door, everybody trying to get ready. And so we're gonna get into the benefit of the habits and routines here. And then in episode part 2, and coming up next, if you're listening, we're gonna dive really deep into the actual art, and I'm gonna call it an art because it really is kind of an art form of habit stacking.
Saying examples of that both of us have used. I think very similar. After all of my clients were kind of wiped out of, just necessity and fear. Working with some big brands even in town, but consultants were cut. And then the other thing that happened, obviously, is school ended. Spring break happened and it never went away. And I, like you, Blake, had really a rhythm for me that felt amazing every morning to start my day. I was up super early and I got going. And then I found myself many days laying in bed still at 8:30 in the morning. and I had no idea what had happened. So I think that talking about how to, starting tomorrow, re-energize yourself to just do one simple thing. And I think there are lots of options that you could start with. I think Blake brought up a few. Let me talk a little bit about water. We are in Phoenix, Arizona. It's 120 degrees outside. You're going to feel like shit if you don't drink water here. And so what I found, which was a big aha for me, is the mornings where I move, I down a lot more water early in the day, and I hydrate more effectively throughout the day because I started my day hydrating. And I intermittent fast, which we can talk about on a different episode. So water and fluid is really the only thing in my system until about 11 or 12 o'clock during the day. So when I was laying in bed until 8 o'clock and didn't do my movement, and then try to get up and do what was next, whatever the heck that was, which usually included cleaning up the kitchen from the night before from my teenage daughter. And then I went down that rabbit hole and couldn't get back out for an hour and a half. I think this was what's been happening for people, is that you're working remotely, you're working from home. As parents, our kids are, at a loss. So, that was my morning. Wake up at 8:30, trot downstairs. The puppy needs whatever the puppy needs. My kids made a mess the night before. Before I knew it, it was fucking 11:30. Hadn't drank any water. I hadn't moved for the day. I felt completely demotivated, and then I just wanted to go lay down. And as we've talked about before, I'm a really resilient person, and that's not me. And so then I started to slip into what's wrong with me. What's the matter? How can I get myself back out of this? And this is why we're sharing, I think, for both of us, is the getting back out of this was one thing at a time. And the one thing I recognized is move. And it doesn't really matter what that was. It could be take the dog for a walk. It could be get on my spin bike. It could be go do a virtual class. If the gym's not open, do something. You said this morning you did 100 push-ups. Do something.
Yeah.
Because what I would then tail onto that is I was drinking my water. So I think it's an idea for those of you. I know this is not like rocket science, but start with one thing. And I think hydration and having a goal for hydration on a daily basis and starting your day by literally getting up first thing and having 20 ounces of water right next to your bed and literally slamming it like you're drinking a beer in college. Just slam the water, if you need to put a funnel there, whatever works for you.
Look, you can grab a couple of neighbors to hold you upside down. I mean, whatever you need to do.
Whatever works. If you can keg stand your water first thing in the morning, I think you should do it. But I think that's one idea. And I think that is coupled for me with movement. Doesn't have to be, but I think hydration is one place to start.
Absolutely. And I think that's a fantastic one. And, if you've enjoyed us tapping into this, the first part of this topic, and thank you for indulging us having a little fun as well. When we go into part 2 of this, we're going to get much, much deeper into those other examples of really great habits that both Stacie and I have implemented into our lives, how you could possibly take those and implement them into yours. And we want to give you some really applicable and very, very, I would say, an easy concept, bringing it back. This is a very simple thing that is often made too complex out in the social media world or the market, of saying, look, it's got to be this really elaborate, complex way of getting these good things put into your life. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
okay,
I think,
so we're just going to talk about the simple way to put those in.
And I think if you're business people, this translates to business in the following way, and Blake and I have talked about this a lot, is that whether it's leadership development or building a strategy or creating a number and a goal, and that's where a lot of businesses are right now, you could read a book, get really confused, and make no progress. So we're going to talk about some of those things as well. The simple things you can do to make traction. I think businesses right now are having a moment as well. Not sure what to do, not sure what to prioritize and not sure what's first, second, or third. And it really starts with one simple thing. And I've found books or events or things. You go to a conference. Everybody's had this experience. You go to a conference, you're super energized. You go back to work on Monday, you're sitting at your desk. Reality smacks you in the face because there are 500 emails that you weren't able to get to when you were at the conference. And you're like, well, shit. Like by the time you get through all that, you're completely demotivated to change anything about how you function. So we're hoping to really package up little nuggets for everyone that's listening on what we have seen work. And then we'll be having guests on that will be sharing their knowledge on those very simple things that work as well.
Perfect. So listen, if you want to hear more about this topic, if you would like to get a little bit deeper into that blue ocean of habits and routines, please go ahead and click on the next episode. We're going to see you back here for part 2. Look forward to talking with you all again. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, guys. Hey guys, thanks for listening to our show. You can find Blake and I on social media channels at Blake Greyhans and at Stacie Mallon.
Be sure to follow Optimized AF on Instagram and rate and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. See you next time.